Her breath fogged the rain-streaked glass as armed men circled the café. Inside, a tattooed stranger with a Korean face and killer's eyes locked onto hers, and for the first time in his blood-soaked life, something cracked. She didn't know his name. She didn't know he owned the city. She only knew that when he smiled, the world tilted. Welcome to Mafia stories, where mafia bosses rule the night, power is earned in blood, and love is the most dangerous weapon. Subscribe and enter a world where bosses rise, hearts fall, and secrets destroy empires. The rain was a curtain between Miriam Ramai and the life she thought she understood. She stood inside the small corner cafe on the east side of Cairo's bustling downtown, holding a paper cup that had long gone cold, watching water race down the glass in silver rivers. Outside, 3 black cars had circled the block twice. She noticed because noticing kept people like her alive. The door chimed. A man walked in, and the air changed. He was tall, lean, and perfectly still in a way that made seasoned hunters look restless. Korean features, sharp-jawed, dark eyes that didn't blink, pale skin stretched over elegant bone structure. His black suit was tailored to the inch, but it was the ink that caught her. Black tattoos snaking up his neck, curling around his wrist where his cuff had pulled back. He didn't look at the counter. He looked at her. Miriam's pulse kicked. Liu Suvu didn't believe in fate until that moment. He had walked into 100 rooms soaked in blood, sat across from men begging for mercy, pulled triggers without flinching. But when the Egyptian woman with the dark eyes and the soft curves turned toward him, something inside him, something he thought had died in childhood, woke up screaming. He crossed the cafe in 4 strides. "You should leave," he said quietly, his accent faint but present. "Now." Her brow furrowed. "Excuse me." "Those men outside," Liu continued, his gaze never leaving hers. "They're not here for coffee." Miriam's breath caught. She glanced toward the window. The cars had stopped. "Why are you telling me this?" she whispered. Liu didn't answer. He couldn't, because he didn't know. All he knew was that if anything happened to her, he would burn the city to find who was responsible. "Come with me," he said. She should have said no, should have run. But something in his eyes, something fierce and aching and impossibly gentle, made her nod. He took her hand, and the world tilted. The next morning, Miriam woke in her own bed, safe, confused, and completely unsure if the night before had been real. But the black card on her nightstand said otherwise. No name, just a phone number embossed in silver. She didn't call. That evening, a bouquet of white roses arrived, then another, and another. By the end of the week, her small apartment looked like a funeral home. Her neighbor, Mrs. Farah, cackled every time the delivery man appeared. "You have an admirer, Habibti," the old woman said knowingly. Miriam didn't want an admirer. She wanted answers. So she called the number. "I was wondering when you'd break." His voice was smoke and silk. "Who are you?" Miriam demanded. "Liu Suvu." The name meant nothing to her. It meant everything to the underworld. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. There was a pause, then quietly, "Because I can't stop thinking about you." Her heart hammered. "You don't even know me." "I will," he promised. And he did. Liu Suvu was methodical. He learned her schedule, her favorite cafe, the route she took to the art gallery where she worked restoring ancient manuscripts. He didn't approach her. Not yet. He just watched, protected, ensured no one so much as looked at her wrong. His men noticed. "Boss," his second-in-command, Teeman, said carefully one night in Liu's private office. "The Egyptian girl." "Miriam," Liu corrected, his voice cold. Teeman swallowed. "Miriam, people are talking, they think she's a weakness." Liu's eyes lifted slowly. "Then they can try to touch her, once." The room went silent. No one tried. A few days later, Miriam was leaving the gallery when she found Liu leaning against a black sedan, arms crossed, looking like Sin in a suit. "Are you following me?" she asked, exasperated but not afraid. "Yes." His honesty startled her. "Why?" "Because you matter." "I don't even know you." "You will," he said again, stepping closer. Let me take you to dinner. She should have said no, but curiosity and something dangerously close to longing made her agree. The restaurant was private, exclusive, the kind of place where politicians and criminals made deals in shadows. Liu led her to a corner booth, his hand resting lightly on her lower back. The touch burned. They talked. He asked questions, what she loved, what she feared, what made her laugh. He listened like every word was gospel, and when she asked about him, he gave her pieces, enough to intrigue, not enough to scare. But she wasn't stupid. You're dangerous, aren't you? Miriam asked softly. Liu's jaw tightened. Yes. Should I be afraid of you? His eyes softened. Never. And God help her, she believed him. But the world Liu lived in didn't allow for soft things. 2 weeks later, Miriam was working late when a colleague, a charming Italian conservator named Luca, offered to walk her home. She agreed. It was innocent. Liu, watching from across the street, didn't see it that way. He waited until Luca left. Then he appeared at her door. Who was he? Liu's voice was dangerously quiet. Miriam blinked. Luca, a coworker, why? Did he touch you? What? No, Liu, what's wrong? He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. His control was fraying. I don't share, Miriam. Her breath hitched. We're not. We are, he said, closing the distance between them. Maybe you haven't realized it yet, but you're mine. The possessiveness should have terrified her. Instead, heat coiled low in her belly. You can't just claim me, she whispered. Watch me. He kissed her then, hungry, desperate, like a man starving. And Miriam, despite every logical thought screaming at her to stop, kissed him back. Later that night, wrapped in sheets that smelled like him, Miriam stared at the ceiling. Liu's arm was heavy across her waist, his breathing even. She should have felt trapped. Instead, she felt safe. But fear crept in with the dawn. Men like Liu didn't keep women like her. They used them, discarded them, and when he woke, when the heat faded, he would leave. So she left first. Liu woke to an empty bed and a terror he'd never known. He tore through the city looking for her, called every contact, sent his men to her apartment, her work, every place she'd ever mentioned. She'd vanished. For 3 days, Liu Suvu, the man who controlled Cairo's underworld with an iron fist, unraveled. On the 4th day, Timan found her, hiding in a small hotel on the outskirts of the city. Liu went alone. He knocked once. Miriam opened the door, eyes red-rimmed. Why did you run? His voice cracked. Because you'll leave, she whispered. Men like you always do. Liu stepped inside, closing the door. He cupped her face in his tattooed hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. I have killed men for less than a glance, he said rawly. I have built an empire on fear, but you, Miriam, you make me want to burn it all down just to keep you safe. I'm not leaving, ever. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You don't mean that. Try me. And he kissed her like a vow. But the underworld doesn't forgive distraction. A rival faction, seeing Liu's obsession, decided Miriam was the key to his destruction. They took her on a Thursday. Liu came home to find his apartment ransacked, Miriam's scarf on the floor, and a message scrawled in red. She screams beautifully. Something in Liu Suvu shattered. He called in every favor, mobilized every soldier, turned Cairo into a hunting ground. And when he found the warehouse where they held her, bruised but alive, he walked in alone. 20 men died that night. Liu carried Miriam out through rivers of blood, whispering promises against her hair. I've got you, you're safe. The following morning, in his private safe house, Miriam woke to find Liu sitting beside the bed, head in his hands. Liu. He looked up, eyes raw. I almost lost you. But you didn't. I can't do this, he said hoarsely. I can't risk you. Miriam sat up, ignoring the ache in her ribs. Then don't, risk us instead. His breath caught. I'm not going anywhere, she said firmly. So you can either push me away and be miserable, or you can let me stay and be happy. Choose. Liu stared at her. Then he pulled her into his arms and held on like she was the only thing keeping him alive. "I choose you," he whispered. "Always." The weeks that followed were a strange kind of paradise wrapped in danger. Liu moved Miriam into his penthouse, a fortress of glass and steel overlooking the Nile. He assigned guards, upgraded security, made it clear to every faction, every rival, every whisper in the dark, she was untouchable. But Miriam refused to be caged. "I'm not a prisoner," she told him one morning, standing in his kitchen wearing one of his shirts, arms crossed. Liu looked up from his coffee, eyes dark. "You're not, you're protected." "There's a difference between protection and possession, Liu." His jaw tightened. "In my world, there isn't." She crossed to him, placing her hands on his chest. "Then maybe it's time to change your world." Something flickered in his eyes, hope, fear, longing. He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. "You're going to ruin me," he murmured. "Good," she whispered back. That evening, Liu took her to a private gala, a front for the city's elite criminals to negotiate territory and treaties. Miriam wore an emerald silk gown that made Liu's hands curl into fists every time another man glanced her way. "Stop glaring," Miriam said softly as they moved through the crowd. "You'll start a war." "I've started wars for less," he replied, his hand possessive at her waist. She laughed despite herself. "You're impossible." "And you're mine." Before she could respond, a smooth voice interrupted. "Liu Suvu, still collecting beautiful things, I see." Miriam turned to find a Western man in an expensive suit, blonde hair slicked back, cold blue eyes assessing her like merchandise. Liu's entire body went rigid. "Victor." "Introduce me to your companion," Victor said, smile sharp. "No." Victor's laugh was cruel, protective, how uncharacteristic. His gaze slid to Miriam. "What's your name, darling?" Before Miriam could speak, Liu stepped between them, his voice lethal. "Walk away, now." Victor raised his hands in mock surrender. "Touchy. I remember when you didn't care who touched your toys." Liu moved so fast Miriam barely saw it. One moment Victor was smiling. The next, Liu had him by the throat against a marble pillar, his voice a deadly whisper. "She is not a toy. She is everything. And if you so much as breathe in her direction again, I will end you and everyone you've ever loved." Slowly. The room had gone silent. Victor gasped, nodded frantically. Liu released him, smoothing his suit as if nothing had happened. He took Miriam's hand. "We're leaving." In the car, Miriam's hands trembled. "Are you afraid of me now?" Liu asked quietly, not looking at her. "No," she said honestly. "I'm afraid of what you do for me." He finally met her eyes. "Anything, I'd do anything." The weight of that truth settled between them. "Liu," she began. "I know it's too much," he interrupted. "I know I'm too much, but I can't." His voice broke. "I've never felt this before. I don't know how to protect you without destroying everything else." Miriam reached over, taking his tattooed hand in hers. "Then don't destroy. Build something with me, something that isn't blood and fear." He stared at their joined hands. "I don't know how." "Then learn," she said softly. "We'll learn together." The next morning, Liu made a decision that shocked his entire organization. He began legitimizing his operations, cutting ties with the most violent factions, investing in legal businesses. It was slow, dangerous work. Men who built empires on blood didn't appreciate reform. But for Miriam, he would remake the world. Timan confronted him one night in his office. "Boss, the other families are circling. They think you're weak, that the woman has made you soft." Liu looked up from his paperwork, expression deadly calm. "Let them think that. Let them come. They'll learn exactly how soft I am when I bury them. And if they target her again." Liu's eyes went black. "Then I won't stop at burial." A few days later, Miriam returned to work at the gallery. Liu hated it, hated every moment she was out of his sight, but he was learning to trust, learning to let her have pieces of herself that weren't entangled with his darkness. She was cataloging a new manuscript when her phone buzzed. Unknown, he can't protect you forever. Her blood went cold. She called Liu immediately. He answered on the first ring. What's wrong? I got a message. I'm on my way, don't move. He arrived in under 10 minutes, guards flooding the gallery. He pulled Miriam into his arms, checking her over like she might shatter. I'm okay, she assured him. It's just a text. It's a threat, he corrected, his voice granite. And whoever sent it is already dead. They just don't know it yet. Liu's investigations revealed the message came from a faction led by Victor, the man from the gala. They were planning something big. Let me handle this, Liu told Miriam that night. Stay here, stay safe. No. He turned, surprised. Miriam. I'm tired of being the thing you protect, she said firmly. Let me help, let me be part of this. It's too dangerous. So is loving you, but I'm doing it anyway. His expression softened, then hardened with resolve. If you're with me. You follow my lead. No arguments, no exceptions. She nodded. Deal. The plan was simple. Draw Victor out, end the threat, send a message to anyone else who thought Liu Suvu had gone soft. Miriam was bait. She hated it, Liu hated it more, but it was the only way. They staged a public outing, Miriam at a charity event, unprotected. In reality, Liu had 50 men in the shadows, snipers on rooftops, and a tracking device in the bracelet he'd clasped around her wrist. If anything goes wrong, he told her before she went inside, cupping her face, you run, you don't look back, you don't wait for me, you run. Liu. Promise me, Miriam. She saw the fear in his eyes, real, raw, terrifying fear. I promise. He kissed her then, hard and desperate. I love you. It was the first time he'd said it. I love you too, she whispered against his lips. Then she walked into the lion's den. Victor took the bait. 20 minutes into the event, Miriam felt a hand on her arm. A man in a waiter's uniform, eyes cold. Come quietly, or people die. She went. They led her to a service exit, into a waiting van. Her heart pounded, but she trusted Liu, trusted the plan. The van drove for 10 minutes before it stopped abruptly. Gunfire erupted. Miriam hit the floor as the van doors were ripped open. Liu stood there, gun in hand, eyes blazing, looking like an avenging angel carved from shadow and rage. Out now. She scrambled out. He pushed her behind him, advancing on the remaining men with lethal precision. It was over in seconds. Victor was dragged forward, bloodied and broken. Liu crouched in front of him. You threatened what's mine. She's just a woman, Victor spat. Liu's smile was terrifying. No, she's my world, and you just declared war on it. He stood, nodded to Timan. Make it slow. Then he took Miriam's hand and walked away from the screams. Back at the penthouse, Miriam sat on the edge of the bed, hands shaking. Liu knelt in front of her, taking her hands in his. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. You saved me, she whispered. I almost lost you. But you didn't. She cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. Liu, I knew what I was walking into. I trust you, completely. His eyes closed. I don't deserve you. Probably not, she said with a shaky laugh. But you have me anyway. He pulled her down into a kiss, soft, reverent, full of promises. The following morning, Liu made breakfast. Actual breakfast. Miriam watched in amazement as the most feared man in Cairo attempted pancakes. There, flat, she observed. They're pancakes. They're supposed to be flat. Not that flat. He glared at the pan. I've negotiated treaties, ended dynasties. I can make pancakes. She laughed, wrapping her arms around him from behind. My deadly, pancake-challenged mob boss. He turned, pulling her close. Yours, he agreed. Only yours. 3 months later, Liu stood in front of his entire organization. Every captain, every soldier, every ally. I'm stepping back from operations, he announced. Timan will take over day to day. Shock rippled through the room. I'm not leaving, Liu continued. I'm choosing a life, choosing her. He looked at Miriam, standing at the back of the room. I've spent my life building an empire on fear, but she taught me something stronger. Love, family, future. He crossed to her, got down on one knee. The room went silent. Miriam Ramai, he said, voice steady, you walked into my life and changed everything. You made me want to be better, made me believe I could be. Marry me. Build a life with me, a real one. Tears streamed down her face. Yes, 1,000 times yes. The room erupted in applause as Liu slipped a ring onto her finger. A simple band with an emerald, the color of the dress she wore the night he knew he'd never let her go. 6 months later, they married in a small ceremony overlooking the Nile. No grand spectacle, just family, chosen, and blood bearing witness. Miriam wore white, Liu wore black, and when they kissed, it felt like the world realigned. A year after that, Liu sat in a hospital room, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in pink blankets. His daughter. Miriam watched from the bed, exhausted and radiant. She has your eyes, Liu whispered, voice thick with emotion. And your stubbornness, Miriam replied with a tired smile. He looked up, eyes shining. Thank you. For what? For saving me. Miriam reached out, taking his hand. We saved each other. And in that moment, Liu Suvu, the Mafia boss who had ruled through fear, who had built an empire on blood and shadow, realized he'd finally found what he'd been searching for his entire life. Home.